You're trying to hack your mind like it's some kind of computer, and you're failing miserably because you still haven't figured out that your head isn't a machine, it's a battlefield. Friday night, 9 o'clock. You're sitting there on the couch, exhausted, after another day where your mind wandered off about 15 times during an important meeting. You open YouTube to relax and end up watching productivity videos until 1 in the morning. Saturday, you wake up feeling like crap. Promise you're gonna get your life together. Download 3 more meditation apps you'll never use. Sunday night, there you are again. Same cycle. Your head spinning in circles, thoughts bouncing around like ping pong balls, and you're wondering why the hell you can't just stop. How many times have you tried to optimize your mind and ended up more confused than before? Because let's be honest here, you don't need another breathing technique. You need to understand why your own head became your biggest enemy. Here's the first punch. You don't have a focus problem. You have a running problem. Your mind isn't scattered because it's lazy. It's running from something you don't want to face. And as long as you keep trying to hack the symptoms instead of looking at the causes, you'll keep doing this pathetic dance from app to app, technique to technique, promising that next Monday will be different. The truth is that every time your mind wanders, it's protecting you, taking you away from uncomfortable thoughts, painful memories, realities you'd rather not see. Your brain learned that it's safer to stay on autopilot than to face what's really going on inside. And then you come at it with these mind optimization strategies, like you can fool millions of years of evolution with a meditation app. The problem is, you're treating your mind like it's a smartphone that just needs an update. But it's not. It's more like a complex ecosystem full of wild creatures you've spent years trying to domesticate. And some of these creatures, they don't want to be tamed. They want to be heard. You know what happens when you ignore these internal voices? They get louder, more persistent, more sabotaging. It's like trying to meditate in a room with a kid throwing a tantrum. The more you try to ignore it, the louder it screams. And in the end, who wins? The tantrum, always. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and one of the greatest Stoic philosophers in history, wrote something that should be tattooed on the forehead of every guy trying to hack his own mind. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength, but pay attention to what he didn't say. He didn't say you have total control over your mind. He said you have power over it. And there's a world of difference between power and control. Daniel Kahneman, the guy who won a Nobel Prize for understanding how our minds actually work, spent decades studying something he called System 1 and System 2. System 1 is automatic, instinctive, emotional. It's the one that makes you jump when you hear a strange noise. System 2 is deliberative, logical, conscious. It's the one you use to solve math problems. Here's the kicker that nobody tells you. You can't turn off System 1. It's gonna keep running, processing threats, reacting to triggers, making decisions in milliseconds before System 2 even realizes what's happening. And you know what the irony is? Most mental optimization techniques try to strengthen System 2 while completely ignoring System 1. It's like trying to drive a car holding only the steering wheel and ignoring the engine. Carl Jung, Swiss psychiatrist who mapped the darkest territories of the human mind, had a phrase that should be mandatory in any productivity course. What you resist persists. He was talking about the shadow, that part of us we prefer not to see, not admit, not integrate. Jung knew that the more you try to suppress the negative aspects of your personality, the more power they gain over you. And this hits right in the face of all this superficial mind-hacking culture, because it teaches you to optimize, but doesn't teach you to integrate. It teaches you to control, but doesn't teach you to accept. It teaches you to be more efficient, but doesn't teach you to be more human. Modern neuroscience confirms what Jung intuited over a century ago. When you try to suppress thoughts and emotions, the brain needs to spend even more energy to keep that suppression active. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. The deeper you try to push it, the more force it makes to come up. And eventually, your arms get tired. Neuroimaging studies show that when people try to suppress negative emotions, activity in the prefrontal cortex, the executive part of the brain, spikes. Sounds good, right? More activity in the area responsible for self-control. But here's the catch. This hyperactivation is unsustainable. It's like redlining your car. It works for a while, but it'll burn out the engine. First truth nobody wants to hear. You can't meditate because your mind has important things to tell you, and you're doing everything not to listen. Every time you sit down to meditate and thoughts start sprouting like weeds, you think you're failing. But these thoughts aren't bugs in the system, they're features. But you, in your spiritual heroism, keep ignoring it, and then you complain that meditation doesn't work for you. The consequence? You develop an adversarial relationship with your own mind. Instead of partnership, it becomes war. And in an internal war, there's no winner, only wear and tear. You wake up already tired because you spent all night fighting yourself in dreams. Your mental energy scatters because half of it is being used to keep the other half quiet. Second truth, your procrastination isn't laziness. It's emotional intelligence being ignored. Every time you postpone an important task, your unconscious mind is doing a risk analysis that your conscious mind doesn't want to acknowledge. It might be fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, or simply the intuition that what you should be doing isn't aligned with who you really are. But instead of pausing and investigating why you're resisting, you force yourself. You download productivity apps, make lists, set timers, as if productivity were a matter of technique and not internal alignment. And then you get stuck in that cycle. Force, tire, collapse, blame yourself, force again. It's like trying to drive a car with the handbrake on. You can still move, but you'll burn out the clutch. The consequence of this war against procrastination? You develop aversion to your own goals. Your brain starts associating your objectives with pain, pressure, self-demand. And then, even when you manage to be productive, you don't feel satisfaction, just temporary relief before the next dose of pressure. Third truth, you don't need more information. You need more integration. Your bookshelf, physical or digital, is full of books about productivity, stoicism, neuroscience, but you still feel lost. Information without integration is just accumulation. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket. No matter how much you pour, it always spills out. Integration means allowing knowledge to change you, not just your techniques. It means recognizing that the anger you feel in traffic has something to do with that frustration at work, which has something to do with that conversation you've been avoiding for months with someone important. It means seeing patterns, not just isolated events. But that takes work. It's easier to buy another course, read another book, try another technique. Because real change requires you to face parts of yourself you'd rather keep hidden. And most of us prefer the illusion of progress to the reality of transformation. If you keep doing this dance of running from yourself, disguised as self-optimization, I'll tell you exactly where you'll end up. First, you'll become a technique collector. Your life will turn into a pile of half-finished methods, meditations that lasted 2 weeks, journals with 3 pages written, breathing exercises you only remember when you're too anxious to do them. You become that guy who always has a new discovery to share, but never manages to apply anything consistently. You'll talk about stoicism while exploding with rage in traffic. You'll post about mindfulness while eating lunch, answering emails. You'll recommend productivity books while your own life is chaos organized by apps you abandon every month. And you know what's worse? You'll start knowing yourself as someone who can't stick to things. Your identity will shape around the failure to maintain habits. You'll be the guy who always quits, who has no discipline, who was born disorganized. And this narrative will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you're someone who can't do it, why really try? In the long run, this internal fragmentation will charge you a high price. You'll develop what I call existential fatigue, that kind of exhaustion that doesn't get better with sleep, vacation, or weekends. It's the tiredness of living in constant internal conflict, of being your own enemy, of carrying the weight of all the versions of yourself you should be, but can't sustain. Your relationships will also reflect this disintegration. You'll project onto others the same impatience you have with yourself. You'll get irritated with people who are disorganized because they mirror your own internal chaos. You'll distance yourself from those who really know you because they can see through the mask of competence you use to hide the mess. And ultimately, you'll become a guy who's functional on the outside and fragmented on the inside. You'll manage to deliver at work, pay the bills, keep up appearances, but you'll lose connection with who you really are. You'll become a stranger to yourself, competent but empty, productive but without purpose. First step, stop trying to fix your mind and start understanding it. Instead of meditating to stop thoughts, meditate to observe them. Sit there for 5 minutes, and instead of fighting what comes up, mentally note, oh, there's that money worry again. Look at that. My mind went back to that difficult conversation. Interesting. Every time I think about Project X, I feel that tightness in my chest. This is the beginning of a different relationship with your mind. Not as an enemy to be dominated, but as territory to be explored. You don't have to like what you find. You just need to recognize it. It's like being an anthropologist of your own internal experience. No judgment, no correction, just curious observation. Do this for a week, and you'll start noticing patterns that went unnoticed. You'll see that certain anxieties always appear after certain conversations. That specific thoughts always come accompanied by specific physical sensations. That your mind has preferred routes it travels when it's stressed. Second step, integrate your shadow instead of trying to eliminate it. That anger you feel but don't express, that envy you pretend doesn't exist, that laziness you fight with caffeine and willpower, these aren't flaws to be corrected. They're aspects of yourself that have been exiled and now operate in the shadows, sabotaging your conscious plans. Integration starts with honest recognition. Okay, I feel envious when I see so-and-so getting promoted. You don't have to act on envy. You don't have to be consumed by it. But you need to admit it exists. Because when you deny an emotion, it doesn't disappear. It just leaves your conscious control and starts influencing you in ways you don't notice. Denied envy can become unconscious sabotage of your own successes. Repressed anger can become self-aggression disguised as self-discipline. Unprocessed sadness can become that chronic apathy that makes you procrastinate everything. The point isn't to eliminate these emotions. It's to learn to dance with them instead of being trampled by them. A practical exercise. Every night before sleep, ask yourself, what emotion did I avoid feeling today? You don't need to solve anything. just need to name it. Ah, I avoided feeling frustration in that meeting. I ran from sadness when I remembered that situation. I didn't want to face the fear about that decision. Recognition is the first step toward integration. Third step, transform procrastination into information. Every time you catch yourself postponing something important, instead of forcing yourself, pause and investigate. What sensation appears when you think about doing that task? What thoughts pop up? What memories or fears come along? Sometimes procrastination is telling you that you need more information before acting. Sometimes it's warning you that this path isn't aligned with your real values. Sometimes it's just fear in disguise. Fear of not being good enough, of being judged, of discovering your limits. Once you identify what's behind the resistance, you can deal with the real cause instead of just forcing the symptom. If it's fear of judgment, you can work on your relationship with external approval. If it's value misalignment, you can reevaluate whether that goal really makes sense. If it's lack of clarity, you can invest time in planning instead of forced execution. Fourth step, develop what I call internal authority, the ability to make decisions based on what you actually feel and think, not on what you think you should feel and think. This means stopping outsourcing your choices to gurus, books, systems, and starting to trust your own intuitive intelligence. Your unconscious mind processes much more information than your conscious mind can access. It perceives subtle patterns, micro-expressions, energy changes that fly under your conscious radar. When you have a gut feeling about some situation, it's not mysticism. It's your unconscious mind passing you the result of a complex analysis it did in the background. But most of us learned to distrust our own intuition. We prefer data, logic, expert opinions, anything that takes away the responsibility of trusting ourselves. And then we stay in this perpetual external dependence, always looking for the next method, the next guru, the next technique that will finally solve our lives. Here's what naturally happens when you stop fighting yourself and start working with your mind instead of against it. You develop a serenity that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It's not the fake serenity of someone who suppresses everything. It's the true serenity of someone who has integrated their internal contradictions. When you stop trying to be perfect and accept being complete, with your lights and shadows, your strengths and weaknesses, your qualities and flaws, something interesting happens. You become more present because you no longer need to spend energy maintaining an ideal image of yourself. You can simply be who you are, in the moment you are. This genuine presence completely changes how others relate to you. People feel when someone is whole, when there's no internal fragmentation, when the person isn't trying to be anything other than what they are. And this generates a form of respect that cannot be manufactured or performed. It can only be emanated. You'll notice that your decisions become clearer and faster, because when you know your own patterns, when you accept your limitations and honor your intuitions, you don't need to ruminate eternally over every choice. You know who you are. You know what you value. You know how you function. And from this solid foundation, decisions flow naturally. Your productivity also changes in quality. Instead of being forced, it becomes organic. You work when you have energy. Rest when you need to. Focus on what really matters, instead of staying busy with manufactured urgencies. Because when you're internally aligned, your energy doesn't scatter in internal conflicts. It naturally concentrates on what has real meaning. And maybe most importantly, you develop genuine confidence in yourself. Not the inflated confidence of someone who ignores their weaknesses, but the solid confidence of someone who knows them and knows how to work with them. You know you can trust your own reactions, your own choices, your own ability to navigate complex situations. Have you ever noticed how people respect more someone who isn't trying to impress anyone? How we trust more someone who admits when they don't know something than someone who pretends to know everything? That's the difference between performed authority and genuine authority. The first you have to sustain with constant effort. The second simply emanates from what you are. Okay, look, at the end of the day, you can keep collecting mind-hacking techniques like their Pokemon cards, or you can do the only thing that really matters. Stop running from yourself. Your mind isn't your enemy waiting to be dominated. It's your oldest partner waiting to be understood. Every time you try to hack the symptoms while ignoring the causes, you're building a castle in the sand. It might look good for a while, but the first strong wave will knock it all down. And then you're back here, looking for the next miracle technique, the next revolutionary method, the next promise of total control over your own head. The truth is that total control is an illusion, but conscious influence, that's possible. Productive partnership with your own mental processes, that works. Integration of your internal contradictions instead of perpetual war, that generates real results that sustain over time. You can choose to keep being a stranger to yourself, always trying to fix yourself like you're a defective product, or you can choose to become your own best friend, someone who really knows you, accepts your limitations, honors your intuitions, and works with your characteristics instead of against them. The difference between these two paths isn't technical, it's philosophical. It's the difference between seeing your mind as a machine to be optimized or as an ecosystem to be understood, between treating your internal processes as bugs to be fixed or as information to be decoded. So, are you going to keep doing this dance of running from yourself disguised as self-optimization? Or are you going to have the courage to stop, look inside, and make peace with who you really are? Because at the end of the day, the only person you need to impress is yourself. And you already know when you're being authentic and when you're just performing. If this video made sense to you, if you recognized some of your own patterns in these ideas, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, because what I do here is exactly this. Explore the territories that most prefer to avoid, but that are the only ones that really make a difference in the quality of your internal life. And when you're done here, watch the next video that's going to appear on the screen. Because the journey of truly knowing yourself never ends. It just gets more interesting. See you later, and catch you in the next video.